The presenting sponsor of Upmarket is Aereo, the best place to grow and manage your real estate media business online at aereo.com. That's ARYEO.com. Coming to you from the Upmarket studio at Gasworks in beautiful San Buenaventura, California, this is Upmarket, a podcast about the business of real estate photography and media. My name is Reed Fish. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Upmarket Media. And man, I almost had our other co-founder, Mark Corcoran, on, but he just bolted out the door to go shoot some photos and declined to be on the podcast. But producer Chelsea Froelich in the house. Chelsea, hello.
Hello.
Chelsea, I feel so we're in February now. And
thank goodness.
Like January was crazy. It was like so busy. I don't know. And I've kind of seen other people around the country, the same thing going on. The markets are like way hotter than they've been in January of previous years. So
we did not really have a slow season.
We were 25% up from last January.
Yep.
So money wise. So I'm rich now. It's great. I'm so excited. Yeah. We can pay our bills for another month. So that's really good. And, so I'm kind of bullish on the rest of the year, and I think you're feeling it in the air, right?
Yeah. We're good.
I think it's going to be a very successful year.
I think so too.
Which is so ironic because of the topic of our podcast today. It's actually, and this one, I just, for our listeners, I just want to say that, this is one of these, it is business related, but it's also kind of a little more philosophical. And I really this is something I've wanted to talk about on here for a long time, and it's failure. And because I know that so many of us in this industry maybe failed at other things and have come in and maybe built successful businesses, or maybe some of our listeners are actually not doing too hot in this business right now. Hopefully not. We give a lot of good information. If you listen to us, you should be doing all right. But I did, and because in the context of a creative life, which so many of us have in this industry, there's a lot of failure involved. And I have a friend of mine here today to talk with us, and I've known this guy for 10 years. He's one of the more thoughtful, interesting, introspective people that I know. And when I think of failure, though, I think of him. And it actually is because he wrote a very insightful, honest Substack article, right? Or are they called articles? Yeah, I think they are. A few months ago, and it really resonated with me. And so I have with us today in person in the studio is Syd Sydney, a 20-year music veteran. Started out as a music industry veteran. Started out as a solo artist and ended up producing and being in other bands. And now here we are 20 years later. Syd, can you kind of give a little bit, very brief backstory on that Substack article and kind of what was in it and what thematically it was about?
Yeah, it was about being on the other side of a project and noticing that I was having a hard time like connecting with people about where it was at, because I've been so used to saying, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then the next thing happens, just feeling this flow of one dot connecting to the next. Yeah. And the dots were kind of disappearing. The person that I was in the band with was moving back to Australia, where she's originally from. It was like done, right. And as done as something can be, you can always hold out hope for something to change. But,
right. The song gets picked up in some show and then all of a sudden there's
but even that, like I had always held out some degree of delusional or practical hope, those pieces were in place. That was starting to just kind of dissipate. And it was kind of like waking from a dream, a beautiful dream. Right. But also this dream where I was like, wait, we really did have something we were trying to do in this band, besides just be great friends, be on the road, play music, which is all super important. We were trying to build a business. Right. And we were measuring it like a business, and we were noticing our friends around us were succeeding in the business and we didn't. And I had to kind of like process that somehow, Right. And it was getting a little old trying to process it with people who were like, didn't want to talk about it.
Right. It's hard to talk about failure. And I want to give a little more context. So this project that you were working for 15 years with Mia Dyson.
Was it 15? No, it started in like 20.
I just read the article.
2014. So it was 10 years.
Okay. 10 years. Yeah. Just for our listeners, I want to listen to like one track for like a minute, just to give a little context on the sound and everything. Cause I think that just helps to see, hey, you guys are legit. It's good. So I I want to play a little bit of my favorite song from the newest album. It's called Tender Heart.
Yeah.
So it's by Mia Dyson. The album is Tender Heart, and this song is Come to Me. We'll just play just like 1 minute of it, not the whole thing.
Come now to me barren, or with your basket full. We'll hold each other's heads when we can't raise them anymore. Come to me in splinters, we'll build ourselves a tree to shade us both in summer and drink sunlight through our leaves. Come over as you are. Come over as you are. Come over as you are. Honey, it's so easy to please me if you please your heart.
The thing that's interesting about that song and hearing it reminds me is that the whole record, she had a heart attack and almost died. Literally. And so she was writing these songs and she came to us with them.
That's why it's called Tender Heart.
And yeah, but that was written before she had the heart attack. Some of this stuff kind of was a premonition of the experience in this very trippy way. And the record was much more rounded edges, much more easy to listen to than some of the stuff we had done before. We had like a harder edge, you know, our big hit was like featured on, you know, Sky Sports, which is like the ESPN of Australia. Yeah. You know, it's like a let's go do this kind of song. Right. And yeah, that song in particular, like it's really a tender, it's a tender piece.
Well, it's a beautiful album, and I would, you know, and it's available everywhere: Apple Music, Spotify, all the places. So
do you want to know something really ironic in this failure conversation?
It's not.
No, it is. But at the end of all of this, as it all kind of dissipated, it won a Grammy in Australia.
Oh,
but she wasn't there to receive it. Her publicist wasn't blessed with the opportunity to speak about it, so it was like a Bob Dylan moment at it's called the Arias.
Yeah.
Nobody there it's just like best roots blues album of the year, and nobody goes up to accept it. And And meanwhile, I'm over here, and that news hit me in such an interesting way, which we could talk about too if you want, because I didn't get a chance to write about that. Like after you fail, after the whole thing has come down, you get a text at like 8 in the morning, and it's like, you won a Grammy last night. It's like, what? What's going on?
Okay, I just reread that essay this morning, and I did want to say, well, what was specifically your goal? Because you really laid it out, and I think so many people in music and art or film or whatever, you just like, I just want to create stuff and I want to get famous or I want to get big, right? But you had a very specific goal.
Yeah. 500 cap rooms, so that means 500 people in a club or a room. In at least, I think we would probably say a dozen to 20 cities around the United States.
I think you put it, we want to play to 200 to 500 people.
Say 200 to 500 people.
And go out twice a year to 20 to 30 cities each time.
And, See, even now I reduced it. I was like, more people, less cities, because I don't want to be on tour anymore.
Well, but that's part of it, right? Because, and I know probably 10 years ago, you set that goal and you're like, okay, very specifically, we have that. But man, your life, I met you literally just almost exactly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And both of our lives are different. I was about to have, not me, my wife was about to have a baby when I met you. And then you had no babies. And now you have 3 kids under 10 years old. And I have 1 kid who's going to turn 10 on Monday.
It's crazy because it's like also at the beginning, if you had asked me the goal, it would have been more cities, bigger rooms. And then it slowly kind of, shifted into what felt like a very practical, plausible. I mean, she's incredible. She's one of those people that you play music with. It was actually just down the street from here that we first played together, literally like a block away.
Wow.
Where we sat down and I played the drums, which I hadn't in a long time, and she played with me, and there was just this like instant chemistry. And it was one of those things where you're like, I'm on the ride, sign me up. She's sober-minded, she's sober, she's all these, she's like incredibly talented.
Yeah. Like magnetic. You got the whole thing. I saw you guys play. I mean, it was a good show. I mean,
so
I wasn't even familiar
delusional
with the music, and you're going, you're like, oh, this is good. Yeah. This is like legit good.
Yeah. Right? So it wasn't delusional is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it also felt like, not inevitable, but it felt tangible. you know, felt like not delusional, tangible, still a reach, but you know.
Okay. But 5 years in or so, you have a couple little kids and but you still have that goal, but in deep down, are you like, even if we achieve this, I don't know if I can do this, right? Because of because you know, when I think of people out on tour, you know, you're assuming, okay, you're gone for a long time, but you're gonna make a shit ton of money, and so then it's worth it, or it's whatever. And like, you know, our friend,
adorable.
Well, of course, well, and it is adorable, but you know, like our friend Michael, who's in Wilco, like he goes it's Wilco. I mean, they're big and they go, but it's not like he's got a beach house or something. And I see the sacrifice with his family. I see his wife around, and it's like, he's been on tour for 2 months, and you know, it's just like, and they're insanely grateful for it, but it also makes it hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a really clear example. My dad was in the business. He was a tour manager, but he also became like vice president of the House of Blues for a time. And he had, you know, every band that ever played in the 90s, he was running the club in New York where they played. So like it was an incredible experience to be that close to the business growing up, and an incredibly strange experience to have him say, you shouldn't do this, you know, because, and I would hear that as, oh, you don't believe in me. But really what he was saying is like, this is really hard and there's so much luck involved, and I can't even really give you a leg up. You have to just do this yourself. And he would say,
you have to have the goods, right?
You got to have the goods, but also you got to have the like, it's your connections. He can't call his friend and be like, my son likes to play the drums. You know, it's like, it's just.
Well, there's plenty of, you know, look, it's so funny with all the Nepo baby stuff, right? There's so many, whatever. Oh, they're Nepo baby this, that, Nepo baby that. But there's so many, and I know just being in LA, there's so many kids of famous people who are trying it and just
I'll tell you what it does. I'll tell you what it does do. It's like being the son of a baseball player who's like a professional baseball. It shows you that it's possible. And it does show you sort of the warts and all perspective. And I think that did give me a pretty big leg up. I think some of my success was due to the fact that I could see the sort of third dimension of the game. And even if I couldn't necessarily play it, I knew that it existed. So I was always trying to kind of get my hands around the business side. And so from the very beginning, you know, running the band on QuickBooks and doing the responsible thing. And, you know, like,
because having a band is basically having a business, right?
It's having an extremely high risk business,
right?
You know, in a marketplace that you're not sure you're ever fully on top of, where your very sense of yourself is always at play and on the line.
It sounds great.
Well, there are parts of it that are absolutely second to none. The friend, and you know, one of the things with my dad was he was on buses a lot. He was gone a lot. And he helped me see that just the tour bus or just the fame was not where it was at. It was really about the relationships and the friendships. So along with this whole like very clear-eyed sense of like, this business needs to work on a spreadsheet, there was also, you know, this part I still am kind of grappling with. There was also a changing of our sense of what success meant. So you had this thing, which was like, is it working on a spreadsheet? Spreadsheet. A spreadsheet. But you also had this thing over here where it was like, you know, it really just matters if we connect with each other on stage. It really just matters if we, you know, emerge from this 4 weeks on the road healthier than when we started. It really just matters if we come home happy. You start to get this sense of like, what's actually important here. And we did, I will say, tend to that stuff beautifully. Like we kept each other in line in that band, in other bands, with other friendships. Like that is the true success story of those 20 years. You know, everything else is questionable.
Right. Well, so then was it worth it?
I am still torn about how to answer that, because on the one hand, absolutely. Like I wouldn't change a thing about it. On the other hand, there was some point at which I wish I had woken myself up. Nobody could kind of make me do this, but I wish I had had the insight into my own inner life to see what you were alluding to earlier, which was there's a mismatch between this dream, even as practical as it is, and what I actually feel I want and need, like on a biological level as I become a father and as I grow older, but also on an intrinsic level as I start to kind of grow away from this. I don't know about grow out of it, but there was I really vividly remember a time when the show started feeling less like a almost existentially insane, intense experience and became more like a experience, you know, just kind of, and that moment should have been a little bit of a wake up call that something had shifted and it was okay. Like, I just wish somebody had been able to sit with me and be like, it's okay if this changes.
Right.
You know, there's
that's,
so much,
you have to give yourself the permission. And so and I think one of the reasons your story has resonated with me, because it's not necessarily, it's sort of similar, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't even know if I've really talked about it on the podcast much, but you know, I had this former life as like doing screenwriting and stuff. And so I had a movie even that was produced and so that, and here's the thing about it. Like, I could never get the second one done, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore,
like you could never get it made, or you couldn't
made.
finish
Well,
it.
yeah, I had a few scripts, but I could never get anything made, and even had trouble finishing scripts, you know. So therefore, I feel like a failure, and I had to kind of start this business because I just needed to make some money, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like a total complete failure. But you know what? I'm more successful than 99.9% of anyone who's ever sat down and written a screenplay.
It's insane.
But I do not feel that.
I mean,
whatsoever.
So relatable. No, yes, we are very similar in that way. It's very relatable.
And it's like, and I see what's going on in the film industry right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough out there. And I even see, Chelsea, you may know a little bit about that. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So Chelsea's husband, Mick, is a camera operator and a director of photography, and it's been a hard year.
Yeah.
But what
2 years.
but it's also been very interesting having Chelsea working with us for the last 4 years and seeing their marriage and how it works. But it's similar to the touring musician.
Yeah.
You know, Mick is doing like big movies. He did like the new Indiana Jones, and he does Marvel movies, and he's like, so he's gone for like 3 months, like to Europe and whatever.
Yeah.
And you guys have a kid, and it's like, it's hard.
It's hard.
And
it's nice sometimes.
What?
Well, it's nice sometimes.
Right.
It's relatable. I mean, Daria, my wife and I, we met when we were very young, 19, 18 years old. And part of our entire relationship dynamic had to do with this leaving and returning, me going away, and then she would travel for work. And that actually brought a certain like spark into our relationship. I loved that about that part of it, but eventually the spark, just pick your metaphor. It either like incinerates the whole thing or it dies or whatever, you know, like.
Right. Well, but to like, for him to be gone for 2-3 months at a time, it really affects you.
It does. But I'm in the same situation where it was actually one of the reasons why we attracted to each other, because my father is in the movie business too. So I grew up around that kind of relationship. And I was used to it, which, you know, he had a past marriage where she was not used to that, and that ended up breaking them up. Yeah. So I actually preferred that, and it was a highlight there. So it's nice, and I understood it, and I support him going and following his dreams and making those moves. So it works.
But I think one of the nice things about your guys' situation is that when he is working and stuff, I mean, he's in an industry and he's in a position where he does well, and so he can fly you guys out to come out for a week to Atlanta, or to, a couple summers ago you were in Italy for 3 weeks or whatever that horrible time for you was, because when Chelsea goes, it's really
you really do fall apart.
It's even worse. I have to work. It's
horrible.
It's terrible. I have to do admin. It's horrible. So I guess I see from afar at this point, I see the movie industry and I'm like, okay, I feel like a failure, but man, what if I had succeeded? I'd be like, shit right now. I mean, totally. It's like, I would be out there on an island, because I don't think I have I have the aesthetic or interest in doing those big type of movies where you're where you actually make the real money. I'd be stuck off in the indie movies where, it's just like, oh yeah, I'd just be broke and now there's no movies being made. And so, I have
such a hard time with that whole thing, and not as in like you're wrong or something. there's something about the whole conception of this that is so interesting. And just listening to you guys talk, it's just, there's something broken. Like Mick's successful. He works on these big movies. I would be an indie, and therefore I would be, it's like, why is that gap so insanely wide, and how much of it is true? And that was kind of, I think, part of my like rebellion in my strange, very straight way was about being like, I'm going to prove out this independent, we're friends in a band, staying healthy, you know, reasonably. We weren't boring, but like staying healthy, doing good things for each other, being family people, and it's gonna work. And we don't have to kill ourselves for this. And by the way, we don't have to be super, super famous. That's not my goal here. I just want to make, and something about that, it's like the business didn't meet that energy, you know. I think in a hippie kind of way.
It's almost like you were the saying, like your process over results, right? And so you had the process, and well, that's all you can hang your hat on, right? Because the results weren't there.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you want to make art, and so does my husband. But as I feel like my father worded it perfectly, that they don't make movies anymore; they make budgets. Which is killing the movie business and the music business and everything.
And I still I'm drawn to it. I still love making art with my friends, but I am like probably, I don't even know how to describe this, like magnetically indisposed towards the business side at this point. Like it's come between me and some of my friends where they're like, "Hey, do you want to help me with this?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. Not even in you know, unless you can pay me."
Right.
And I don't like that about where I'm at, but I'm like, I just actually did my, oh God, it was so depressed. Like a rainy day. I'm listening to all the saddest songs on my, iTunes. I'm doing my taxes for last year, and just really just looking at, because last year was the last year that I sort of gave myself to be like, let's see if just like letting this flow turns into anything. Right. And I can tell you, it did not.
It turned into this very specific number.
And it's very, very arresting. There's also something about, in the music business, people quit. Like they do this like really dramatic, like I'm out of here. And then they go stand in the back of the venue and they're like, "Oh yeah, your band's pretty good, but you're doomed." You know, and it's like, I don't want to be that guy at all. I love it. I love it, dearly. But I also do see this sort of like beautiful futility of it, and think, if my daughter comes to me and she keeps showing she loves playing music, and she's like, "I want to do this," I think probably my advice now would be something along the lines of like, that is a perfect thing to do in your 20s, and the minute you see an opportunity to do something that you think is going to bring you more income, more joy, more stability, you name it, whatever the more is that you're looking for, take it. I think that's interesting, is what I wish I had done. I've always loved computers. I've always loved programming, and all my other side gigs have been around that kind of work. And at some point, I wish I had just gone, you know what? Here we go. And my dad would always say, "You always have music." And I just could not hear that as anything other than I don't believe in you. But it is true. I sat down last night. I played the guitar. My kids are all running around. There's a fire going in the house. Like,
oh, it doesn't get any better than that.
It really doesn't. It really, honestly, truly doesn't. And I want to grab my younger self and be like, your father is right. You're not listening. But hopefully my dad doesn't listen to this. You're not that right.
Well, look, and I think you can, because also I do want to touch on, and then we're going to take a quick break, but you're also in another band that I like, Radio Skies, which is more, it's kind of more the local ambition though. It's kind of more of a local kind of Ventura County band.
Again, where you set your sights on a certain thing, we realized like, bringing sort of like the biggest band in your town vibes is really fun. Like showing up at the Deer Lodge, which is a venue we love playing, and like having a light show and fog and like just bringing like an arena show into a tiny room. That's a worthy ambition.
And that's why I think I called you guys at one point the world's best Ojai band.
Totally. That's literally, we've talked about that as a goal. So there's a thing where that band is successful.
Totally. Well, and it's also one of those things where you guys are all doing other stuff. And I know like one of the guys is a teacher at our kid's school, and and so so there's all that. So you can, I think, exist and make money in other things and still have music or still have photography for all of us, whatever.
The lead singer of that band, like he wrote the book on that.
Yeah.
Like he's always loved woodworking, and music to him was never seen as a true career option, even though he went to Berkeley.
Right.
So he always had this really great balance between what he did for money and what he did for art. And the problem was I didn't have that balance. I was always looking at the art as a means to an end, not exclusively.
I get it. Yeah.
But one of the real tensions in our relationship, and is one of my best friends, but one of the real tensions in our relationship is this part of me, not my higher self, but this part of me feels kind of abandoned by him. Where I was like, we were doing all these things together. We were in the casino. We're doing the thing, and now you just walked out the door and like, what happened? I'm alone. And of course, I would turn to that part and be like, that's not what happened. Right. But also, and he was very clear from the beginning about where he was at with all of it. But it was a difficult tension. And in a way, the difficult tension is where the good art comes from.
Yeah, there you go.
It's weird because
There's Lennon and McCartney.
Honestly.
There you go. No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, because, and we are going to take a break, but because that band, you guys are great. And you've already given me permission. I asked you ahead of time. Chelsea, you don't even know that we're going to end the show today with a special song. My favorite Radio Sky song. I've been given permission to play it. Nobody in this room knows what it is, but we'll find out later.
I'm trying to imagine you at a show, and when do you really start dancing?
Never. I'm not a dancer.
No, you start.
That's not true.
Noticed you in the show. You stayed out. Like,
that's not true. I've seen Reed dance at a concert.
You saw me dance at a concert?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Las Vegas, we need to take a break. Let's hear that story.
No. We've told that story on this podcast.
Well, actually, most of the listeners have seen that.
Look, we're gonna do our social media sidebar. We're gonna do a couple ads, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk more about failure, kind of a different angle on it, and kind of in how we relate in this business, the real estate media business. And then we're going to end with action items, and we're going to kick it to the real end with Radio Skies.
I love it.
All right. Syd, I know you kind of have your eye on the real estate media business a little bit. Oh, yeah, I know. So look, if you wanted to have an all-in-one platform that to use to kind of deliver photos to your clients, to bill them, to have ordering, to manage your team, to manage schedules, to do all that, and it's all white labeled with your branding on it. Like if you had to pick one service to use that did all that, what would it be? What would you do?
I want to say the Yellow Pages, but I think I'm going to choose Aereo.
Syd, that is a really great answer.
I got it?
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of options. I think you chose the best one.
Thank you.
And I know Aereo for us has made our business so much better, so much easier. Our clients love it. In fact, Chelsea, we kind of closed a deal yesterday with an agent with a big team that I think is going to bring between $50,000 and $100,000 to our business this year. And she said I shit you not, the favorite thing about our service was Aereo. She didn't say Aereo because she doesn't know it's Aereo.
Oh, but she said how it was delivered.
How it's delivered. Wow. Oh, it's so easy. It's this, that, it's the other thing. So look how much money we are making because of Aereo. And also they pay us money to actually sponsor the podcast. So we get so much from Aereo.
Wait, now I get that money is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you get to, you have a beverage that I paid for with the money. So there you go.
Seems fair.
So look, I would go to Aereo.com, that's ARYEO.com, and use the code Upmarket, and you're going to get 15 free bonus listings, Syd. So get going. I think of you as a Renaissance man, actually. In the creative, really in the creative life, because I know you're so much passion. You have so much passion for music. We've talked about, but I know also film, acting, books, computers. But I know the one thing for 10 years that you have talked to me about more than any other is floor plans. I know. Look, and it's been in your writer for shows. Without a floor plan, you don't even walk in the building because you want to know what is going on there.
I got to have the lay of the land.
No, yeah, because do you want to? You're going to setting your drums up on stage. You want to trip and fall? Absolutely not. You know every square inch of that place. And do you know that there's actually, you may not know this. I know you're a floor plan aficionado, but you may not know.
Probably know.
You may not know the technology behind this, but look, Second Floor app to me is the best place where you can make a floor plan directly from your iPhone. So you just fire up that app, you walk through the space in 5 minutes, and it's gonna be delivered immediately. You're gonna have a floor plan with GLA, gross living area, with all the measurements, with everything. It uses AI to make it done. Right there, you can deliver it right to whoever you need instantly.
I love this. I can't believe you had to explain GLA to me. Of course I know what that is. I go into a venue and I think, where can I live here if my marriage breaks up and I'm stuck here on the road?
Well, but here's another thing, because I know we're talking about the business of music and generating revenue.
Yeah.
Well, how about every time you're going to play a venue, you bust out Second Floor app, you make them a floor plan, and then show it to them and be like, how much you want to pay for this?
I love that idea.
You know, they're going to fork over the big money because those floor plans look good. So go to Second Floor app. It's all .com. It's all spelled out. Secondfloorapp.com /upmarket, and you're going to get a free month, and you can do as many freaking floor plans as you want.
I can just wherever I want.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so glad I came here today.
Me too. Thanks. Social media sidebar. So look, we are Upmarket Pod across all social media. You can give us a follow. Our upmarket.media is our legacy account with shows all the houses. Sid, you got to follow that on Instagram. It's real good. And look, we also really appreciate rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show on your thing of choice. And look, you don't even have to smash the like button. You can just lightly tap it. It's the same thing. Like, give us a 5-star review, subscribe. We're on YouTube as well if you want to see what Sid looks like, which I recommend. You can go on there. Sid, I think you're an interesting guy. Where can we find you? If we have interested in this interesting guy, where are we going to find you on social media?
I would go to Syd, SYD-music.com, which is a website.
Yeah,
I hope that's okay.
That's not social media.
And
but that's
there
right.
you will find a link to my Substack. And I've pretty much whittled down all of my social media behavior to Substack at this point, which is to say I don't have much social media presence these days.
Yeah.
And I just like it there.
But you have a few gems that come out of there, and some nice essays, and there you go. Yeah.
Quick thoughts.
But where are we going to find? And so at Syd
if you go
/music
to any
music,
of the other places,
you're going to find your music.
You'll find that there too.
Yeah.
At Syd Music, SYD Music is where you'll find me on every other platform.
Okay.
Probably even still Foursquare if you're on that.
Yeah. But Foursquare. Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of active on Instagram.
Okay.
And I used to be super active on X.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah. You Blue Sky though. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
There's too many now.
Yeah. I
was like, Twitter was great for me, especially when I moved here.
Yeah. And so to check out your music, I love Radio Skies. We love Mia Dyson. I mean, you have some solo stuff out too. So it's all on the streaming platform.
It's all there.
Yeah, I would encourage you to.
The coolest thing, and it's on the website right now, is that the last song that I did that was a solo song was a song that I wrote about being a father.
Yes.
And we did a music video where my daughter does a bunch of lip syncing in it, and she just crushes. It's really amazing, and it was so fun to do. There's a piece about that piece on my Substack.
All right, I haven't read that one.
You should.
I'm a failure at reading the rest of your Substack.
You are not very good at reading. That's the one thing I was going to give you a little feedback on. Your reading could use some improvement.
All right. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more with Syd. We're going to end with action items and Radio Skies. All right, more with Syd Sydney. Syd, I talked a little bit about my own feelings of failure in kind of the creative world, and I think our industry here is probably filled with many people who have had that. Right, all of us know how to use a camera. Because I don't think any kid is growing up and I want to be a real estate photographer.
There's definitely one, but not many.
Hopefully not
Maybe
my kid.
your kid.
Yeah, hopefully not my kid. Maybe one of Mark's kids. Not me. And I think it becomes kind of this backdoor industry where you just kind of you just happen to get into it, or maybe you get hired at a company or whatever. But so many of us though have that creative life and that background. And for me, you know, my college degree was in art with an emphasis in photography, and I did a little bit in the gallery world and, you know, in the fine art world and in more conceptual stuff, not like, you know, I was never like an Ansel Adams type photographer, that kind of thing. But I did kind of set that aside to pursue more of the film stuff. And so then I feel like, oh, I have these 2 tracks of the art track and the film track, and I'm not successful at either of those. And then though, I start this business.
Yeah.
And then I become successful at it. But it's a little bit of a double-edged sword for me, because for years I would barely admit that I was even doing it, because I was still, because, you know, I live in Ojai and it's close enough to LA where it's like, no, I was still doing film. This is just something I do on the side.
Yeah.
And so it was almost, you know, you don't want like these important people who think you're an important screenwriter to know you're doing this other thing on the side for money. Right. So I was like always a little bit sheepish about it. Right. Yeah. And I think that kind of feeling that I had around it then still continues to this day, even though like I don't even have the pretense of like, oh, I'm working on a movie thing. I mean, I have a friend that I'm maybe noodling around on a script with, and maybe, you know, shoot something in a weekend or whatever, but more just for fun. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of funny that deep down, maybe the more successful our business is, the more of a failure I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Can I reframe that for you a little bit? Even hearing you say it, and I'm sure somebody would say the same to me. By the way, my least favorite thing for somebody to say to me is like, you'd be good at anything. And that gives me just such FU vibes where I'm like, okay, but I'm trying to be good at this specific thing.
Right. Well, not this, anything else but this.
Exactly. Yeah. But when you even were talking just then, I was like, well, what's interesting is that the only thing wrong, so to speak, really, was that you had a desired outcome, but everything you described led you to this in a way. Right. Photography, film, storytelling, you're doing all of it in a way, and they all seem completely logically related in a way. And the only problem is our inner dissonance with it, where we feel like we aren't matching the story that we were supposed to be living. And that's tricky.
I think and I've struggled with the actual work of real estate media.
Hard.
Well, yes, in this I don't. I actually don't. I actually like working hard on something that I feel passionate about.
Yeah.
What gets me with this is I just don't find it creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so even now, I think we're able to with videos, and we're trying to do that a little bit more in the company, is have more of a creative lean on, just rather than just showing a property tour, of just, you know, doing kind of more fun stuff that's going to play better on social media. Yeah. But even within that, like, I'm not like jazzed about coming up with ideas, personally coming up with ideas for that. And so it just is like, to me, real estate media in a way has almost sucked the joy out of making visual art for me. Because now when I pick up a camera, it feels like a commodity, and it doesn't feel like art whatsoever. And I remember even being being on shoots and having an agent say, "Oh, just do your art," and I'm like, "Yo, bitch, this is not art." I think, you know, because you can, but that's not to say you can't bring an artistic eye to it. You certainly can. Absolutely. But the things that I liked about art were not I was not getting fulfilled in those ways through taking pictures of homes. And I think there are people who feel really passionate about it, and they have maybe more of an architectural photography lean in what they're doing. Yeah. And I totally respect that. And me saying that it's not fulfilling for me is not a denigration of anyone else who finds fulfillment from it. But, you know.
One thing that's helped me in that and all that stuff as I navigate it is this idea of there's a part of me, that kind of language where I say, there's a part of me that's feeling really unfulfilled. There's a part of me that's having an unmet need in whatever it is I'm doing. I mean, one of the things I have done is kind of drawn a hard line on music education as a part of my career path, wherever it goes next. I don't really want to have to go play the drums or guitar to make money to teach somebody something, like being a music teacher, for example, because hats off.
Yeah. Well, no. And I think that's probably a profession filled with people who had larger dreams or
people. I had a friend, I grew up with a guy that I learned to play music with. We were on tour together in the beginning. You know, he came out here to Ventura with me in 2003 3, we made our record with the guy that had made Jack Johnson's record. And we were, it's like me and my buddy that grew up together. And after about a year of touring, he was like, I want to go back to our little village and I want to teach kids how to play music. I want to do that.
Wow.
This is not him going like, this is my fallback. It was his passion. And he's done it to this day. That kid, Noah Kahn, who's like a huge, I didn't either, but he's from my hometown. He's from this tiny little hamlet in Vermont. My buddy.
Oh, I love that you're from my hamlet.
I am basically. I'm from like a shire, like truly. I'm from Hobbiton. Yeah. This kid is just, he's like bigger than Springsteen. There's some statistic about his streams, but my buddy taught him, he went to his school in this tiny little town, and that brings all kinds of joy. And anyway, my point is not for me. And part of the reason for that is that I know that the part of me that resonates with music, the part of me that wants to play music, needs its own space in which to exist. And it's almost like a state of mind, like it's me sitting down to play the guitar last night is not about me trying to figure out a career path or write a song that's going to be a hit or anything. It's just about like connecting with that part of me for just even 10 minutes. That gives me some kind of fuel that I just was born needing. And it's nice to distill it down to something as simple as that, because then I'm not needing all of this other superstructure in order to get what I need. It felt before like I needed to be on tour, on stage with songs that I thought were hits, being seen by people, like this huge list of requirements in order to meet my artist. And now it's kind of been, you could say just winnowed down to the finest minimum viable presence, maybe you'd call it.
Right. Well, yeah. And I like the Oscar nominations just came out the other day, and yet again, it was not nominated.
Dude, I mean, I know you're joking, but the Grammys happened the other night.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm not joking.
There's a part of me, there's a part of me that just goes like, didn't get it this year.
Yeah, no. Well, and that's it. Even and again, you measure success against that too, and you're like, well, there's been 500 total people ever nominated for a directing or screenwriting Oscar, and I'm not one of them.
The stories come though.
Like,
the stories. There's a kid that I grew up with. Again, very small town. I used to play Legos with him. We watched The Simpsons. We never talked about music. It wasn't even part of our. And that's weird because that was all I talked about. And he became a college DJ. He met Kanye, and this past weekend he won a Grammy. And I'm just like, that guy? I mean, he's an incredibly sweet guy, super talented, but
way more successful than
there's a part, totally. A part of me that's just like, how can it be?
Yeah, of course. But what I was gonna though get to is that it's not a straight line. No, it's fine. Is like, I didn't get an Oscar, but you know what? I'm sitting here doing this podcast today, and I feel like that. I have gotten way more fulfillment from this podcast than I have ever from any real estate media.
It's on your own terms.
Yeah, it is. And I can be I can also be myself.
Yeah.
And when I'm out, like on shoots, like I'm still kind of myself, but like, as everyone on this podcast knows how much I hate realtors, I can't really talk about that on shoots, and of how much I hate homeowners, and all the stuff that I'm kind of known for saying here. Here I can be unfiltered, and then you feel like you're also talking to your people. And now I've been doing this business for 10 years. So I guess real estate photographers are my people for better, for worse. And there's so many amazing people in this thing. And I've met so many of them, and genuinely, have friendships with a lot of people, and to know that our podcast resonates with people, and that even if it's just like, we get to sit around and talk and make jokes, and I can make floor plan jokes or whatever. It's, it's fun.
There's a vulnerability and an honesty to this medium. And there's a vulnerability and an honesty that people resonate with that I think it goes beyond industry. It goes beyond whatever you do in your day to day. If you're being yourself on some level, that does work. Now, whether you want it to work for you in a business sense or how you measure the kind of working that it's doing, it is interesting. Some of my most deep connections that have led to some of the most massive opportunity have really been coming from a place of me being very true to who I am. Not to a fault, not blowing it out of proportion or anything, but just like, this is who I am, take it or leave it, does have a certain element of attraction. But this is who I am, my way or the highway, has the opposite effect, which is pretty interesting. I've noticed that in my creative work.
Well, yeah. And I guess like there is just this fulfillment in being yourself and then being successful at it. And I feel like I'm good at podcasting, and then it feels good to be good at something as well, right?
Drop a rating or a review if you disagree with Reed, by the way.
And we have all 5-star ratings, so don't do that. We want to.
Well, like you didn't change when you got into this. To me, you know, like you still like choose to dress in a way that's like expressive and artistic. You come across as an artistic person.
Oh, I do.
We have deep conversations about art. Like you appreciate art. All the things that make you remained intact over these 10 years. The only thing
I don't know. It doesn't feel like that to me.
Well, the only thing that's changed, I was going to say, is this perception that you have about this complicated inner life. And it doesn't mean that that's not real. I totally acknowledge that it's real. I'm just saying, I think for other people too, that was what made talking about like Mia's project kind of not living up to my expectations or something very difficult to talk about with people, because they'd be like, well, you've always been genuinely you and you've seemed really successful. And I don't really want to hear about how it's not working for you, because it kind of just sounds like you're just bitching, you know? And it's like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying,
Because I feel like I bitch about stuff all the time.
right, because you could be like, I closed a $100,000 deal last week. It's not really what I want to be doing, you know. That's not how I. Yeah, but it is real to you that it isn't, and that to some part of you, and that distinction of the part thing has been important to me. Where I'm like, yes, to a part of me doing my taxes yesterday, it was absolutely gutting, because you just go, this business has bottomed out. There's nothing left here. Right. Obviously, there's lots of external forces at play. I can think of 10 people and things to blame without even really thinking about it.
Well, and it is their fault,
but the truth of the matter is, like, this is on me now. This is on me.
But here's what I'll say too. I wouldn't say I'm envious. I'm actually envious of the fact that you have somehow on a certain level come to terms with it. And I'm kind of envious of your position right now, because all bets are off. There's nowhere to go but up, right? And there's nowhere, and everything is open to you. And it's like, and the other part of this failure conversation for me personally too is I'm, which I haven't really talked about on here, but many people know I'm coming out of a failed marriage.
Yeah.
And I hate to kind of call it that, because I don't know it's a failure, but it was a failure in that, we're not together anymore. But we have a kid.
In the most literal way, it's not working.
Yeah.
Wait, there was something you said there that was interesting though, where you're like, the opportunity that comes here. It is true.
Right.
It is true.
Well, I was just, let me finish my point here. It was that the world is open to me.
Yeah.
Right.
You can be on every app.
Yeah. I can
Finally.
I can be on, there's a lot of apps to be on, but I can be on an app, and I get to, and I actually get to decide, what do I want my romantic life to look like?
Yeah.
What do I want my relationships to look like? What do I want to model to my kid about how I interact with people I'm interested in, or, whatever. Yeah. It's like, and also, am I even interested in any, whatever. Right. So it's like, I'm really feeling like this freedom that I haven't felt in a long time, but it comes out of a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But
yes.
but then it's also exhilarating. Right. Yep. And also just to be in this space where it's like, well, I don't have to do any of that. I can just like sit at home and watch movies. Right? When I don't have my kid, it's like the whole world is open to me,
Yeah.
And so for you, like you really get to decide what's next.
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that happened in my life is that, or has happened, is that there's something that's come full frame into my windshield that I kind of have to do, which is that my sister started a podcasting company a couple years ago. And, and she's been very successful at it. She's got a couple hit shows. She's a great producer, but she's had some real, challenges in her personal life and some other stuff that have happened where she's literally, living with us. In my studio. Where I usually go to sort of get my space and figure out what I'm going to do next and make the calls and update my, whatever it is. So she needed a operations person, somebody to do the sort of like,
you're producing podcasts now?
Well, I'm the operations person at our podcast company for
Chelsea. Could we use another
for the interim, and that means like talking to the agent, working out the deals, like making sure that there's a workflow, making sure that as their company grows, they can scale in a way that isn't going to absolutely burn them out, you know, in the quickest way possible, you know.
So you have to do this to get her out of your studio.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, like part of that is such a gift. Because I really don't know what's next. Like I have no idea, but I'm really grateful that like, you know, it's bringing me and my sister closer. It's helping us with boundaries. You know, there's like a deal memo between us that's like very bounded, where it's like every 90 days we're going to check in. Because my dream is not to be the CEO of her company.
Right.
She wants that to be my dream. And we've talked about it, but it's not. And so I've been able to say like, for the next 90 days, I'm going to help in these specific ways. I'm going to help you define your vision. I'm going to help you reach it. And then in 90 days, we're going to talk about it. And are you out of my studio yet? Okay. No? Okay. So another 90 days or whatever.
Well, she's got the hit show. She should be able to afford her own place.
No. That's the trick. And that's the thing that is interesting. There's definitely a business there. No question about it. I wouldn't be helping her. I'd be definitely saying, you got to pivot, pivot, baby.
Pivot, do music.
Yeah. So actually on that note, yesterday in the tax doldrums, it was quiet and just sitting there. I was Daddy's got to pivot. Said that out loud. But you know, she does have all the pieces, but it's still creative industrial work.
Yes.
And it has all the pitfalls, all the potential downsides, most of which, in my opinion, have to do with burnout. And they have to do with this idea that you're going to get somewhere where suddenly this is different and that's different, and so you're okay. Or so it feels less overwhelming. Or so you have... And that's tricky.
Well, and I think what it has to have, right, is, and I think why this podcast is great, it's like, it is process over results, right?
Yeah.
Doing it is fun.
Yeah.
And we do happen to make money from it, and I think we can make more money from it, but there's also a ceiling, right? We're never going to make $1 million, you know, a year off of this podcast.
Well, not
or whatever.
if you put that in the universe, buddy.
Exactly. But you know, but the ceiling is actually high enough that it's like, even if I wasn't into it, it'd be well worth doing, right? Yeah. But the fact that I do enjoy it, then it, like, in and of itself, and we've talked about it on here, it's good for our business. We just talk about business all the time. And we, you know, it serves a purpose, even if I don't make a dime from it.
Maybe not this episode, but most episodes are probably very valuable.
Well, you know, we still, the advertisers, I mean, they may call and be like, hey, I don't know. Can you take the ad off that episode? But
don't want to be associated with that guy.
But I can see the burnout is real, because we have our other podcast, which is about Ventura County real estate, which I don't give a shit about. And it's hard for me to host that because I don't care.
Yeah.
And it only serves a purpose in promoting our business. Yeah. And my heart is not in it, and it shows, right?
So why don't you stop?
Well, because I think it's too good of an idea, and I think we can make money from it. And
just curious.
Like, yeah. Well, you know, because we always got to do shit we don't want to do sometimes when we own a business, you know. It's unfortunate.
I know. It's true. I mean, trust me, it's true. Even at the levels where I was reaching that anybody would consider success, there were times when you're like, this is really a lot like work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It is. And even elements of this podcast can feel like work, but you know, the hour that we sit here and talk, it doesn't. Right. Yeah. And so that's the beauty of it. But that half hour where we sit and talk about Ventura County real estate, that feels like work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is fine. But do you think though, that you, outside of even this opportunity, which maybe only is lasting another 90 days for you to work with your sister.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Yeah. I mean, are you going to go into computer programming? Are you like, do you still have to do a creative thing? Well, and I do think it does help, like, you are, not to get too deep into that, but you do have a support system, and that your wife has a good job and the company and the whole thing. So it's not, I don't get the sense that, like, if you don't go out and make $75,000 this year, it's going to, you know, you guys are going to default. But I'm sure if you made $75,000, everyone would be happier. You know, there's
a lot of questions in there, and I want to take them one at a time. No, because they're good. So the true core of my existence is my wife and I agreed that my existence was worth it for us, whether I made money or not, because she likes being around.
That's a good way of putting it.
At that during those years.
Yeah.
she loves being around music. She loves being around artists. She loved what it did to me, how it made me be. And she believed in it, but she also knew that the risk was super high. So it was like, it was a eyes wide open. This is what we're going to try to do.
That's incredible.
It wasn't always easy, but that was the agreement, you know, especially after 2020 and as things have shifted and this sort of like bottom fell out of everything. And we had more kids. And her business has reached its natural ceiling. You know, it's her family's business, but you can only like, you know, juice that baby for so much. It's like she's still got to work, and there's there's people,
only so much to go around.
And there's also like, you know, there's a sense of she wants to be as valuable as anybody who's not family and as compensated. You know, it's like so there's some tricky politics there, but the truth is that they're actually, with the increasing cost of living and Ojai being what it is, I actually do need to make money. Like I need to just make straight up money, and it needs to be decent. And that pressure is, for the first time in my life, kind of okay with me, because it's coming outside of the, like, you need to make this band work, which was just feeling so like, I thought I was, you know? So I really don't know where it goes from here. You know, the way that I have structured the deal with the production company that I'm working for now is basically like, it's a deferred payment where if they reach certain milestones, I get paid, which I like, because it's my sister. If she reaches those certain milestones, forget about the studio and all that stuff. She's off to the races and in her life. That's great. And that the whole family benefits from that. So that's the, like, you know, we've had an agreement up to this point. It's shifting now. It's not because my wife is going like, I'm sick of you playing music. I'm sick of me trying to be in the casino of the music business. It's not like this is a mutual decision now. But it doesn't mean it's comfortable. And it doesn't mean, and I'll tell you what, the main thing that I can say is, I really, truly do not know what's next. And I have to keep it that way, as uncomfortable as it is for right now. It's really, I'm so used to having a plan that is driving me a little bit nuts. But
embrace it, man. Get on the apps.
Totally. The job dating apps. No, I mean, the best I can do is, like, you know, stay active in my friendships, take care of myself, be there for my family, like, be in relationship with other people in different industries, and make it known that I'm who I am and ready to work, and see what happens. I don't see any other way for my particular career path to go any other way, really. Like, this is kind of how it has to be. And I guess, like, the way to look at it, as we're kind of running out of time here, and to kind of come back to failure. You mean existentially running out of time?
Yes, we're running out of time in so many ways. Every second we spend on this podcast, we're a second closer to death.
So feel that.
Is I think really what it comes down to ultimately, and what I think we have to take away, is that failure is an option, and failure is an opportunity.
It's a great teacher.
And I think that's the lesson. Like, you fail in the one thing and you do this. And so I think even if someone is failing in this business, it's an opportunity to do something else. And, you know, it can be hard in the moment to feel that way, but once you, like, in the context of the marriage and I think you're kind of going through it with the music stuff, is like, as you process that grief, once you get to the other side of that, I mean, you always have it a little bit, right? It's never going to go away completely. Is then the world opens up, and you do have opportunity and to do something on your terms, hopefully, right?
There's a really tricky thing that happens when you talk about this, where people go, but what about all the good things? And so I'm not saying that, but I am saying that cultivating an attitude of gratitude, I'm really sorry that those rhymed, but just that sort of sense of gratitude about the stuff that has been and the stuff that's currently happening seems to me to be the best counterweight to the failure. But you have to acknowledge that the weight of failure is there to counterbalance it. So you can't pretend it's not there. Like, nothing failed, it's all good, I'm just moving on with my life. And no. You have to actually look at that and how it's dragging you down, and then counterweight it with something. And it can't just be Pollyanna-ish, sort of like, you know, platitudes. It has to be really what was great about that. What am I grateful for?
Yeah.
And what am I grateful for about what's coming?
Yeah.
And what's here?
No, and that's how I try to look at my relationship stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I try to look at everything, because it's not one thing.
No.
It's just not one thing.
No, it's
and to say, oh, we broke up and it's like, it's horrible. Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't. We had a lot of wonderful times and a kid and the whole thing. I mean, it's like, it's all the stuff.
Yeah, it's all the stuff.
It's all the stuff. And and to do all that, it does take action though, which means it's time for our
the
action
action
items.
Our action items today are sponsored by Pixel CRM, the only CRM that is made by a real estate photographer for real estate photographers and media professionals. It's an amazing tool, fully fleshed out. You can do so many things with Pixel CRM. I urge you to check it out. It's Pixel CRM. That's PIXL CRM.com. And if you add right after that.com, if you add a little /Upmarket, you're going to be able to get a free month of service to check it out. So check out pixelcrm.com/upmarket.
Syd, I want you to go first today with the action item.
Do you have one too, though?
I do, of course.
Okay,
Everyone,
cool. Just
yeah,
making sure
everyone.
it's not just like
Chelsea's producing behind the scenes today, so she doesn't need to have one. But yeah,
Okay.
I want you to go.
Mine is a book.
Okay.
And it's a book of action.
Okay.
It was written by a guy named Oliver Berkman,
Okay.
who was the sort of productivity desk at one of these major newspapers. He would get all these apps and tools for
Okay.
like getting things done,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and he just had this sort of, I think of it as a pretty funny, just like moment of going, this stuff is meaningless, like in this really essential way.
Okay.
And he dug into the idea that you're never going to get to the end of your email. There's no there to get to in your life. Your life is very finite. And all of these big sort of like, kind of questions. And he wrote a long book about it. And the long book is good. But the follow-up book, the sort of Marie Kondo writes about tidying up, and then they like capitalize on it by doing the book about this is how you really fold clothes.
Yeah.
Usually they're kind of BS. The follow-up book is called Meditations for Mortals. And it's a 28-day course, basically, where each day you just read a little piece and reflect on it. And the best way I found to do the book, so to speak, was to find a friend and voice memo them after you've read the passage and just hold each other accountable to that. It doesn't have to be at a certain time, but find a friend and do that book. And it really has helped me kind of conceptualize of this time in a healthy way, I think.
Okay.
So
what's the book again?
Meditations for Mortals by Oliver Berkman.
All right. That sounds like a lot. That's 28 days, man. I don't know. That's a lot.
You just
of time.
do it one day at a time. Have you ever been to a meeting?
That's how I live my life.
Is it?
No.
Yeah. I didn't think so.
Right. Okay. So my action item is not vague, I guess. It's very specific, but it is related to today's topic, I think. And it is to give yourself some grace. To realize that we all fail, to realize that it doesn't define you, and to realize that, you can pick yourself back up and that it is an opportunity. And the one thing is we didn't really get into is how I have a tendency, you may as well, I'm sure many people do, to beat yourself up over these failures and how, I'm a horrible person because of this. I'm just whatever, useless. And those, I think you have to honor those feelings, but don't
have to
dwell
live
on
in them.
those.
You
No.
don't have to live in them. Yeah.
No, it becomes dangerous.
Unless
to
you're
live
me,
in
in
them.
which case you definitely need to
then
live
it's
in them.
fine. You give yourself a little bit of grace. But I think,
Yeah, that's good.
that's it, to just be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like that be kind rewind thing from when we were kids. It's like, be kind, but don't rewind.
Yeah, don't rewind. Just be kind and move on, move forward. So, you know what? Thank you, Chelsea, for being here and producing.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Chelsea.
Yeah, and thank you also to Bethany for editing. We're not going to do our normal outro
thank you.
today. Bethany Diedrich is our editor. Chelsea Froelich is our producer. And what else do I say in that? Oh yeah, I hope you don't have any Friday night Twilight shoots this week,
Yes.
right? So, and obviously I want to thank you, Syd, for being here. And the biggest thank you, of course, is to our listeners. Without you, doing the pod's great, but again, it's it's the relationship that we have with our listeners that really does make it worth it. So we appreciate all of you and all your successes out there. We love to see all those. And so we're going to end this show with my favorite Radio Skies song.
Wait,
it's already coming in the
Can I say
background.
thank you?
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank your sponsors because those ad reads were so fun.
I forgot to thank our sponsors. That was great. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay. Look at this guy, Mr. Business over here.
Well, you're not going to send me that check you promised me.
So yeah, how much do I have to pay you to play this song? That's the thing. So we're going to end on, the radioskies.com, right? You can go see all the stuff.
I think unfortunately, because I think the domain got sniped. I think it's radioskiesmusic.com
Okay,
now.
perfect.
Yeah.
The newest album is called Floats Away. It came out last year. This is from your album from a few years ago. This is from Double Life, right? The Radio Skies Double Life. And it is the legit, this is not like my favorite Radio Skies songs. This is one of my favorite songs.
That's so cool.
I love that album so much. And then this one is the last song in the album. It's called The Sky Was Red. It's by Radio Skies. Enjoy.
I see strands of smoke. There's a promise made. Your love I would surrender in a double life. So many lines, continually distracted. A million moments breathing the same time. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. The emptiness of my layers and the love of my home. Unthinkable, incompetent. You form the center, not shading the entrance. I'm not innocent. Never thought I'd see my betrayer. My heart can still be blown out in a double life. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. The emptiness of my layers as a puzzle line. I'm tired of being lost for you, secluded in my illusions. Luminescent, painted blue. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. And the sky was red. And the sky